Well, it's good to see y'all. I'll take an honorary membership. I don't check two boxes. I don't live in Fulton County, and I don't have the chromosomal makeup that I need to, I think, be an official member. However, it is an honor to be here with you today. I want to take about 10 minutes and unpack why I'm running for lieutenant governor, and then I have the privilege of introducing my good friend Burt Jones, who I believe is the only choice to be the next lieutenant governor in the state of Georgia. About 8 years ago, I got elected to the Georgia State Senate. I had spent 10 years of my life as the tour manager for a guy named Chris Tomlin, and who wrote a bunch of songs you may sing on Sunday mornings, like Indescribable and How Great Is Our God and Holy Forever. And I very quickly learned that traveling full-time in the music business is a young man's game, and I wasn't a young man anymore. And so I came off the road, ran for office, and here I am before you today. You know, I'm struck by the reality today, just as like I was back in 2018 when I decided to run for office, that America is not just a country, but America is an idea. And that idea turns 250 years old next year. And it is the thing that separates America from every other country in the world. And it's interesting, when you look at the evolution of this idea, we see it perk its head up a little bit early in the English Charter of Liberties. It begins to take form in the Magna Carta. John Locke spells it out in the two treatises of government. We read about it in the Federalist Papers, and then it gets enshrined in our original founding document. And you've heard it, but see if you can see the idea. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Did you catch it? Pastor, I know you caught it. Here's what happened. For all of human history, people believe that rights came from government or a king or from man. And 250 years ago, we drew a line in the sand and we said, no, rights come from God. And that line in the sand, by the way, is the singular fault line today of what separates the left and the right. It is fundamentally, where do you believe your rights come from? Because that will dictate how you govern. I believe that the most important question you could ask anybody running for office is, what do you believe is the role of government? And the Declaration gives us the answer to that as well. The very next sentence from the document that I just quoted goes on to say that to secure these rights, governments are formed among men, deriving their power from the consent of the governed. So we have two things in that sentence. First and foremost, the role of government. The role of government is to secure rights. A lot of elected officials and even a lot of Republicans believe that the role of government is a lot bigger than that, but it is not. The role of government is to secure rights, full stop. The second part of that sentence gets to the core of the American ideal, that government is not over the people, but it is under the people, and that we, the people, give the power to the government. And once again, a lot of elected officials and even a lot of Republicans don't fully understand that. How has that played out for me in the last 7 years in my role in the Georgia State Senate? First and foremost, because I believe in the rights of you to choose what you put in your own body, I authored and passed the law to ban vaccine passports in the state of Georgia. Because I believe in the rights of parents and not bureaucrats to choose the educational path for their own children, I worked with my good friend Jan Jones and passed the Georgia Promise Scholarship Act, the most sweeping school choice bill in the history of the state of Georgia, so that parents can take their state tax dollars and use those for an educational opportunity of their parents' choice. And because I believe in those same children to get an education and not an indoctrination, I authored and passed a bill to ban DEI mandates in all K through 12 public schools. And lastly, because I believe in the rights of women to have their own sports and their own changing rooms, I authored and passed the Riley Gaines Act to ensure that what happened to Riley Gaines right down the street in the swimming pool at Georgia Tech in our capital city would never happen again to any other woman in the state of Georgia. So I'm running for lieutenant governor. What is a lieutenant governor? By the way, everything that I just told you passed under Burt Jones's leadership. because the role of the lieutenant governor is to green light legislation, and it's also to red light legislation. I believe that what we don't pass can be as important as what we do pass. So where are we going? I would like to invite you on a journey with me that ultimately is a battle. And it is a battle to save the West. We save the West by saving America. We save America by saving Georgia. And we save Georgia by saving the American dream. How do we do it? Right now, old people can't afford to stay in their homes and young people can't afford to buy homes. We are going to take a sledgehammer to the property tax scam as it currently exists in the state of Georgia. There's only one area of your life where you get taxed on unrealized gain, on paper gains, and it's on your own home. You should not have to pay the government to live in your own home, and we are going to resolve that by passing a series of laws that ensure that you are charged a tax first and foremost on the price that you pay your home for the entire time that you buy your home. If the valuation goes up, it does not matter that your neighbor sold their home for more. Your taxes should not go up unless the politicians vote to raise your taxes. Put them on the record, make them take the hard vote, and stop allowing them to have these backdoor property tax increases through the taxation on unrealized gain. If you've lived in the state of Georgia for 30 years, not if you've moved here from New York or California, but if you have lived here and paid property taxes for 30 years, your property taxes should go away completely when you turn 65 years old. Lastly, Atlanta in particular and Georgia as a whole leads the nation in something that I believe is a very, very insidious problem. We have significantly numbers of single-family residential properties that are being sold to hedge funds and private equity groups that are backed by foreign pensions and sovereign wealth funds from both China and the Middle East. They are buying up thousands and thousands of single-family homes in the Atlanta metro area. They are turning those single-family homes into rentals, and it's crushing the American dream. We are going to stop the allowance of these private equity groups from buying single-family housing stock using foreign money in the state of Georgia. Let me tell you what that's going to do. The average age of a first-time home buyer today in America is 38 years old. Young people are losing faith in the American dream because they're not able to participate in the American dream. For the last 100 years, the primary tool of wealth creation in America has been the ability to own the dirt underneath the bed where you lay your head at night. The goal right now is to turn us into a nation of renters, not a nation of homeowners, because they want us to lose faith in free market capitalism. And if we lose faith in free market capitalism, we lose faith in the American dream. And if we lose faith in the American dream, we become very, very susceptible for falling prey to a Pied Piper like Bernie Sanders or Zohran Mamdani, who are selling the lie of socialism. And that is how we're going to save America. We are going to save Georgia by saving the American dream. We're going to save America by saving Georgia. And we are going to save the West by saving America. So, if you want to join me on that journey, all of you have a push card on your table. We're going to have some yard signs when you walk out of this room. But we are going to ensure that 8 years from now, you know how they call Florida the free state of Florida? I take offense to that. 8 years from now, under my leadership and Burt Jones's leadership, they're going to refer to Georgia as the free state of Georgia. I'm going to pivot to my introduction of Burt. So the stump speech stops here. Everything here goes to Burt. There's only two things that matter in any elected official. What do they believe? What is their core ideological belief? And in my case, I believe we have a job as Republicans to elect the Republican with the most solid conservative worldview that knows why they believe what they believe and can articulate it to people. All of that is irrelevant, though, if they don't have the backbone to do what they ultimately believe. And there are only a few moments in time where you begin to distill if somebody has a backbone. It's not when we're voting on the easy bills. It's not when we're voting to make cornbread the official state bread of Georgia or Brunswick stew the official stew of Georgia. Both of those are real bills, by the way. It comes to the difficult fights. And the most difficult fight that I've been through with Bert that I can testify to is after the 2020 election, we knew that there were significant questions that we had about the validity of the 2020 election. We now know, by the way, that right here in your county, 3,000 ballots were double scanned. We now know that people voted from out of state. And we ultimately know that Georgia law was not followed in the mechanics of the election, and that we used the executive powers to make things up like drop boxes. So after the election, myself, Brandon Beach, a guy named William Ligon from Brunswick, Georgia, and Bert Jones stood up and said, we've got some questions, our constituents have questions, and we are calling for a special session of the Georgia General Assembly to reactivate this government for two purposes. First and foremost, to investigate the 2020 election. Secondly, to change what we just saw happen for the two very important Senate race runoffs that were happening in January. I believe that if we would have done that, the United States Senate would not have flipped. Oftentimes, the most difficult thing that we can do in the legislature is press the red button, not the green button. There are some elected officials who press the green button 100% of the time, and every idea that we have is not a good idea. Bert Jones has led the charge on school choice. Bert Jones has led the charge on election integrity. We passed a paper ballot bill out of the Georgia State Senate this year under Bert's leadership. Bert Jones has led the charge on pushing back against DEI and what I call the woke industrial complex. And Bert Jones has stood for women in passing the Riley-Gaines Act. There is only one person in the governor's race who can say any of those things. And what you can say about Bert is all of those things. As Donald Trump would say, Bert, you've got my complete and full endorsement. So would y'all please join me in welcoming my good friend, Bert Jones.
Appreciate it. Good job.